We're back, baby. It's the Horns Up Talking at Texas podcast. Fisher DeSopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks, Kreider. We're going to get into recruiting. We're going to get into another position group battle as we head to the Sugar Bowl, New Year's Day versus the Washington Huskies. We're going to talk running backs, y'all. But first and foremost, Mr. President, we got him. Kobe Black, 5-star defensive back, is coming to the University of Texas at Austin. After a fake out, we thought he was going to maybe pick A&M, where he faked us out, faked A&M out, and then he went with a double back Georgia reverse and threw the Texas hat on and gave an old big hook him. And now we have another 5-star to our recruiting class and what should be in a really exciting transfer portal class with Trey Moore, crystal ball to us, edge like Nick and I were talking about from UTSA yesterday. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, now officially crystal ball to us, from Houston, like we discussed. And Makuba's taking his visit, defensive back from Clemson. He's also on our radar, but another great get for Sark and co, who are, double dipping and doing double time as they prepare for the college football playoff and stay hot in the recruiting trail.
Kobe Black, about damn time.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. He was crystal ball to us all season long. So to me, I don't understand what takes these guys so long to make their decision. It seems like he's been known he's going to be a Longhorn since day one. Him and Colin Simmons have been very vocal with each other. They've met, obviously playing football together in high school in Texas and All-American games and 7-on-7 tournaments and all that good stuff. But I don't know what takes so long at this point. I mean, it's nice that he can finally sport the burnt orange and put on the hat and probably, be an early enrollee next semester along with Colin Simmons. But business is business, and now we're ready to roll. Still a couple of other big targets on the radar. You mentioned Xavier Phillipson, who's could be flipping from Florida to us. That'd be a huge get. Another 5-star defensive back coming in to the secondary that I think we feel like is the weakest part of our team right now. If we really had to break it down, I think the second, just because of youth, at the end of the day, there are some transfers. We mentioned Larry Turner Gooden is transferring out. We have youth with Brooks and with Muhammad and, of course, Derek Williams. Like, those are all young cats. So, you can never get enough guys. But, we talked about Makuba as well from Clemson coming over. I think that'd be a really good pinnacle of our defense to kind of anchor down a young secondary, a guy with some good experience from the Austin area who's played significant time for a big university. We need something like that. But, all is good right now in recruiting space. I mean, hopefully we land these other big fish. For me, I mean, I think I'm more excited about the transfer portal more than anything, just because these guys are ready to go. At the end of the day, we might not see Kobe Black hit the field till sophomore season. I mean, maybe he sees a couple of snaps here and there. Obviously, it happened with Malik Muhammad, and we see Anthony Hill. But, at the end of the day, we know the guys who are transferring in, like Trey Moore and like Makuba, they're ready to play day one. They're ready to be starters and vie for SEC all-conference teams. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought, interestingly, when asked about the decision, Kobe did admit that he knew he was going to Texas before his senior season even started. So I think it's just a matter of whatever. You wanting to do it on the big stage, you wanting to wait, for early signing day. You wanted to get a little bit closer to that going into this before he officially committed to the University of Texas. We were ranked the number 11th class by 247. So I expect that we will jump up at least into the top 10 after this signing, but we'll see where they have us after the fact. But, I know that Sark and the consistency and leadership that he brings and us not having many changes, right? Going into bowl season, going into the college football semifinal, going to the SEC, the fact that we have the majority of our coaches still with us and presumably into next season, I think makes a big difference. And obviously, I think, we would pick Sark in the room versus any of the other teams that Kobe Black had out there. I like Dan Lanning a lot, right? I'm sure he's really good in the room and so are his guys. But when the kid's from Texas, it's a tough sell to go to Eugene. And obviously A&M has been in turmoil. So I like that we're taking advantage of the guys that are in our backyard.
Yeah, and I think that to answer your guys' point of why wait, I think, we're seeing it kind of in Florida. You you bring up Xavier Filsaime, who's been with the Gators pretty much his entire recruitment and has been very vocal. But now all of a sudden in the last month, his recruitment's opened back up and he's crystal ball to us. DJ Lagway, another Texas kid, actually quarterback, one of the top quarterbacks in the class. He, has been a Florida Gator this entire, recruitment, but he has opened it back up. And I think some of these guys want to wait and see how the season goes and what direction these programs are going in. And if you're Kobe Black and you look at our program, yes, we have a lot of young guys in the defensive side of the football. We don't know if we'll see them, but maybe we could. Because who are the guys we've been highlighting? Like Malik Muhammad, that's a freshman. Brooks is a sophomore. Derek Williams is a freshman. The best player plays for the Texas Longhorns. The toughest place to crack, like we've been saying, is the wide receiver room because he really just runs those three guys. But outside of that, like if you're a freshman and especially in the defensive side of the football, and you can contribute and you can play and you're good, like he is going to play you. So I think Kobe Black looked at that. Coach Gideon, I'm sure, was a big part of it. And defensive back, he's having been there, and all the recruitment we have going on. He's like Toss said, he's a homegrown kid. We know like how Nick and Toss and I and Quan, we've all four been saying for pretty much the entirety we've done this podcast, you have to win your backyard. And so this was paramount. We got this guy, but it's tough to take him away from us, especially with, SEC, A&M on the down, Baylor on the down. There's not a lot of great football going on in Texas outside of us.
Yeah, can't take another Texas kid going to Ohio State or something like that.
True.
Ohio State, because we've seen that so many times. You look at Garrett Wilson, that was a guy from Lake Travis who went to Ohio State. Jackson Smith-Njigba's from Rockport. Like these guys shouldn't be going to other states. I understand if we lose the battle against A&M or even OU, but like if you're from Texas and you have these huge blue blood programs, calling for you, there's no reason why. And now I don't think we will as much because we're so competitive. We're going to the SEC, but I understand why guys wait if they're committed to a school like Florida where there's turmoil, right? They've changed coaches a couple years. Obviously they're under 500, missing a bowl game. Like that makes sense, right? Because you don't know the trajectory of what your program is going to be like. You want to win ultimately when you're here. With Texas being so good this season, for me, I just didn't wonder why Kobe Black didn't announce it sooner because it was very clear what our trajectory was. But you're right. And at the end of the day, like if you're a player that's rated in the top 50, right, 5-star player with tremendous talent, that's that is confident in their own ability, you're going to play at some point. If you're really true to who you are and you've got the skills and you've got the confidence, you're going to play, and it shouldn't matter where you go. So at the end of the day, I think obviously he made the right decision. We're Longhorns and we think that, but it's just good to check that off the list and, focus our attention now on the guys that can contribute again next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I was just going to add in there, and it's not just about, being the best team in Texas means so much because there's so many recruits that come out of that pipeline. But continuing that success as we go to the SEC, and obviously something that we're going to talk about a lot in the offseason once we get through the college football semis and hopefully to the college football championship. But TCU gets there last year and then they have a bad year following it up. And now currently they, just mentioned 247, we're number 11 right now. They're number 29. They were number 26 in the 2023 class. So they've gotten docked, a few points here because they're not able to sustain the product on the field. And I think recruits take note of that. Right. And so Kobe watching us do our thing this year, winning the Big 12 championship and obviously getting to the college football semifinal is a big part, I imagine, in why he was able to stamp that approval to the University of Texas. And we're happy to have him. And yeah, like you said, Josh, like he's certainly probably going to be in the mix on special teams, just from the onset, I would imagine.
Best player plays.
Yeah. So
it's how it is, man.
I expect him to be a guy that's in the mix. We're going to have a lot of young guys playing next year because we have a lot of upperclassmen that are going to go to the league and just a lot of guys that are going to the league in general. So,
Toss, where did you say we moved up to in 247's rankings?
We were at 11. I was saying I expect us to be in the top 10 after.
Got it. Because on 3, I don't know where we were before today, but they moved us. Actually, we were at number 8 on 3's rankings, and now we're number 6.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
That's great. But I think I stand with you, Nick. I care more about the transfer portal almost than I do.
And what's nice as well about the transfer portal is that we're not a team that's going out looking for one of these quarterbacks that are shuffling. I feel like that's such a scramble right now for universities. They're focusing so much of their attention on the guy that's going to be their field general. I mean, it's nice that Dylan Gabriel committed early for Oregon, but there's some big fish still out there. Cam Ward still hasn't made his decision yet. Is it Dante Moore from UCLA hasn't made his decision yet? I mean, Miami's heavily in the mix for those guys. Wisconsin finally got their guy Van Dyke.
Riley
But
Leonard went to Notre Dame.
yeah, Riley Leonard, Notre Dame. But I mean, like, there's so many guys that are out there, and it's nice that we have our quarterback room kind of figured out already for the most part, and we don't have to be in the mix for these big name quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think there's a lot up in the air in our quarterback room, but I don't think it's all bad. You guys are right. Like,
Up in a good way.
Yeah, NC State got Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. You mentioned Van Dyke going from Miami to Wisconsin. Nebraska is firmly in the mix for Kyle McCord, and they're going to try to nab Julian Fleming, who was the former, literally number one overall recruit.
At least back in the portal again, looking like Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They're and the other Aiden Chillis, the other quarterback from Oregon State, with their coach going to Michigan State. It makes sense to those guys leaving. And if DJ can go to, Florida State, head back to the ACC where he's comfortable, and he was fine at Oregon State, but hopefully he could take that next step up if he does go to FSU. Now, maybe not be the quarterback we all thought he was when he was a 5-star coming out, but still be competitive. Dante Moore is from the Detroit area, so they're looking at Michigan for him. That's a pretty good fit, but there's still like Dylan Raiola, who's, the top quarterback in the class in high school. He's probably going to flip from Georgia to Nebraska. And another potential big get for Nebraska, the Cornhuskers, who are looking to get McCord from Ohio State with Julian Fleming pairing, and then also nab Dylan Raiola. And I think I know we're like kind of smirking and laughing at Nebraska and Matt Rule, but they went 5-7 last year, and they lost. I think at one point they were 5-3, and they lost their last 4 games by a combined 16 points. They are not far out of the mix. I know it's going to get a lot tougher with USC.
I'm not smirking because of Nebraska. I just think it's interesting that they have so many different guys in that room, and you just know at the end of the day, like, these guys this is not going to be their final stop. I mean, obviously they're all guys that want to make it to the league and that were highly recruited. It doesn't make a ton of sense for me in my mind for Raiola. I mean, like, Georgia's top of the game right now. I mean, obviously they're missing the playoffs, but they're still good. I mean, they're going to be right there in the mix next year.
Yeah, don't go play behind Beck for 1 year and then you're the starter the following year. It's a clear path to me.
Head scratcher.
Yeah. I mean, especially with Brock Vandergraff, the former recruit, top 5 recruit from Georgia. He's now going to Kentucky in the transfer portal, so that opens it up there. You never know where money talks, man, right? And maybe he feels like, and Matt Rule is. Say what you will about him in the NFL, he's a heck of a college football coach. And there's one thing for sure that's proven: he knows how to turn a program around. And
officially, we have been moved to number 6 on 247. So we did crack the top 10. We went from 11 to 6.
Yeah, nice.
Huge show.
Cosby.
Yeah. The big 6. I think that, I don't know. I think Georgia being a quarterback there is kind of weird. Like, stars don't matter. Your recruitment doesn't matter. He rides whoever he feels puts that team in the best position, whether it be Beck, whether it be Bennett. Like, Vandergraff was supposed to be the guy, and he was supposed to be the next big thing. And I don't think Kirby Smart cared, and they didn't miss a beat really with Beck to Bennett. Like, yes, they missed the playoffs, but they had 1 loss in the last 30 games. Like, they're obviously an incredible program and a borderline dynasty, in the college football space. So I could understand that level of uncertainty, that level of, next man up and juggernaut, and there's the whole room's talented and that kind of pressure, or he can go to a school like Nebraska and kind of resuscitate that program and be the guy on campus, and trust in Matt Rule, who's gotten teams back from the dead, like I said. So I it's a little bit of a head scratcher, yes, but to play devil's advocate, I could kind of see where he's going with that decision. But there's other guys. I mean, Ole Miss, Princely, the name I'm not even going to try to say that Nick valiantly attempted yesterday, the edge from Florida. He's looking like he's now going to Ole Miss. The guy, unfortunately, that was looking like he was going to go to us, Juice Wells, wide receiver, South Carolina. He's crystal ball to Ole Miss as well. So Lane Kiffin, a veteran in the college football space, understands the importance of the transfer portal and how massive those implications are.
Yeah. There's a lot of wide receivers out there, obviously.
Sure.
And I don't want to just take some guys to take some guy. You know what I mean? I want this to be the right fit, because at the end of the day, we do have a pretty nice class coming in of guys who are at the wide receiver position. I mean, Ryan Wingo right away can be a contributor. We already know we're super high on John Tay Cook. We've got guys within the program as well. I don't want to just take a guy to take a guy. You know what I mean? Where it just creates a little bit more of a a position battle. I mean, at the end of the day, like we said, best man plays, but it sucks to see a guy like Isaiah Nayor, who transfers over from Washington. We were super high on, or sorry, Wyoming. We're super high on. Obviously has an injury, so that's something that's out of everyone's control. But now transferring again because he didn't see enough snaps. Casey Kane didn't see enough snaps. Um, it is the nature of the beast, but I don't want to just go after guys to go after them. I need them to be the right fit. I need them to be bought into Texas and to honestly fit this offense the right way. I think we want more speedsters. More guys that can beat you deep. Not just throwing a guy out there that's got great stats who might just be pretty one dimensional in certain conferences.
Yeah.
I do like the kid from Houston that we're going after. What's it? Burks from Purdue. I mean, obviously committed to OU already. I thought we were in on him, but that was a pretty quick commitment. Juice Wells, as you mentioned, but I think was it Landon Humphreys from
Vandy
went to Georgia. So
there's guys that are dropping off, but there's guys that'll come still.
Yeah.
Like I think there's
Brown's one to look at maybe from USC.
I think we have to keep in mind a couple things. Like we got AD Mitchell late. Like he had won a national championship, and we were like, wait a second, this guy's available. Wait a second, he's coming to us. Like that unfolded all pretty quickly. Like he did what he had to do at Georgia. I'm not saying we're gonna get one of the guys from Washington.
For all I know, Roman Dunze wants to stay next year.
Yeah. Well, if Jalen McMillan, if Washington loses, right, and Michael Penix Jr. is gone and Quinn Ewers decides to come back, or Arch Manning's or Quinn Ewers plays himself to the NFL, and I think that's the reason why Malik Murphy's actually not entered the portal, aside from wanting to win a national championship with us, and be on that roster and get that experience and be a great teammate. I think he still believes, like many of us believe, Quinn can play himself into the first round of the NFL draft still with these two final games. So I think a lot of teams want to see how our quarterback room unfolds maybe before jumping in and see how their own rooms unfold. And again, like you never know who guys can be. Like we all thought AD Mitchell was going to be great, but do we think he was going to be a first round talent? I don't think so. Like this is he's really made that jump. Keon Coleman, who from Florida State was
one of you guys had him as our MVP of the season. The other had them as offensive player of the year. So, I mean, yeah.
You never know what these guys can do in this system. I mean, Keon Coleman out of FSU right now, he was at Michigan State last year. He was a big transfer too. Like guys move and they transfer, and sometimes a lot of the time it's for the best. Like look at all these quarterbacks, Nix, Daniels, and Penix Jr. That were at the Heisman. They're all transfer guys. So even our guy's a transfer guy technically. Even though he didn't really suit up for Ohio State. I think it's really exciting. I'm curious to see where Cam Ward ends up. These two guys, I forgot their names, that cover the guys, say the Buckeyes have their guy and they know who they're going to get, which people think it's Arch Manning. I don't think obviously Arch is going anywhere. But
he's already confirmed they're staying.
Yeah, I think they'll probably nab Cam Ward, who will ultimately be the top guy, right, in the quarterback group. It's a really strong quarterback group, and I completely agree with y'all that it's a nice feeling to know that that's not a pocket we have to dip into and throw some money at these guys, and we could spread it elsewhere. And Trey Moore, I tweeted out from our account, Moore, Simmons, Barron Sorrell, Hill, like all these guys going after the quarterback next year. How many sacks can that group get rotating in and out? It could be crazy if we get Trey Moore from UTSA.
Yeah, for sure. It was interesting. I think we posted a clip of this show from a fellow Believe show. The Believe in Buckeyes had Urban Meyer on. Josh, you posted a clip of Urban talking about Texas, and he thinks that they're the best team in the country right now on Twitter. Go check that clip out. But later in the show, he was talking about how he doesn't really like the transfer portal, and that's part of the reason why he's not coaching right now, or aiming to get another job in college football, as we know he could if he really wanted to, right? I know he left on bad terms with the Jacksonville Jaguars and things happened there, but talking college football, we're talking Urban Meyer, the guy's won multiple championships at two different universities, and also got Utah to a place where I think they've been able to consistently play high-level college football after his tenure there. But it was interesting because he was talking about if you have all these guys in the portal, like it's important to nab these guys, but you have to develop. And it's about that next man up mentality. You have to keep guys from year one and grow them into players year three who can start and who can make a difference when you're talking about championship level teams. And I think it's just as important to keep the guys that you bring in. We're talking about Coach Sark, and that's why we're building a winning culture, right? We've talked about with Quan so many times. this season. And I just thought it was really apt. Like the portal is really important, but you're right, Nick. Like it's such a luxury that we don't have to spend all of our time in the portal going for a QB, and we can save that time, effort, and energy in those conversations for other guys that are more supplementary pieces, right? Who are just kind of cherries on top to the already established structure and roster that we built by keeping guys here, by growing them, by getting them better, by developing them, which is something that, at least for the longest time since we've been doing this podcast, like the development in the last 2 years is off the charts from what we've seen guys do and who they've become this past season, right? 5 years ago, 7 years ago, we weren't developing anybody. They were getting to the pros. They were being 4th, 5th round, 6th round draft pick or undrafted.
They were good.
And then making an impact because they were talented.
It's interesting. I feel like a lot of what transfer portal has presented in the landscape of college football is very similar to how young high school basketball players open their recruitment up when they decide to forego going to a college and go to like Ignite, the G League and maybe even going overseas, right? Because let's say you play sophomore, junior year and you're at a school like UTSA or you're at a school like JMU, right? JMU has an All-American this year. Like those guys want to get the best development possible their next season for them to be able to go to the NFL and get as much money as possible and be a first-round draft pick. It's not a lock that Trey Moore is even drafted in the first 3 rounds next year, in the NFL draft. But if he develops his talent at Texas with Bo Davis, like we know Bo Davis has been able to do with our linemen this year and Sark, and be in a winning program on the center stage where you're going to have so many eyes on you in the national media, you might be a first-round draft pick. And so it's just kind of a new way of thinking about how guys want to take their future seriously, right? You want to use this as a stepping stone to get to the next level. And like we've been saying this all season long, that the perfect scenario for this was AD Mitchell. He's a 2-time national champion, might be a 3-time once all said and done. But was he going to be in a first round? Was he going to be a second? Was he going to be a 3rd-round pick? If he hadn't come with us and played with us, maybe not.
No, I mean, like,
and I think
you're in the
the
national
last thing
spotlight.
I'll say is, yeah, you're right. Absolutely, Josh. He's in the national spotlight. He probably would have been, right? And what I mentioned, I think last week when we did our MVPs, was that 2 years ago, AD Mitchell was a contributor at Georgia, right? It's not like this guy was in a bad position. He won 2 national championships in a row and then decided to transfer. So it takes the right kid going into the right program for everything to work. Like there's so many QBs that are going all over the place. And we've already seen that how many 2-time transfer QBs do we play this year? I think we played 2, right? And we at least played JT Daniels. And guess what?
Yeah,
the guy's he retired. He's not going to the pros. And it's no knock on him, but sometimes that much change curbs your development, right? It makes it that much harder. And you have to be the right type of guy mentally and be going into a situation that wants you to flourish. I understand chasing the bag. Sometimes you have no other option. And I guess maybe your hand gets forced a little bit, but the big league money is always going to be more than any sort of NIL college money at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. And like, look, I'm not saying we've been a lock. Like Isaiah Nair, like he flopped for us, unfortunately, in the transfer portal, and he's going back in. But I feel like we've had good success.
Don't you think, though, if he stayed, he would have been a guy that was utilized next year in a capacity that made him look like a pretty damn good receiver? That's how I feel.
I don't think we've missed on the transfer portal, to be honest. Like Quinn, outside of that,
but I think Ewers, for him, you look at the guys that are coming in next year, and you have to evaluate for yourself. Like, I have to compete with these freshmen who are 5 stars who are healthier than I am. So
that's what I say about the mental thing is like be that guy who's a dog and is like, I don't care that you're a 5, so I'm going to beat you out. You're going to take my job, and it's just not as many kids these days because you have the ability to transfer. Like they don't have that mindset anymore. And it's something that is lost a little bit. Right. And it's the same thing you're talking about with the high school basketball thing is a very apt comparison, because just because you're going to the G League and you're talented enough to do it doesn't mean it's going to translate well to being a good NBA player. Just straight up.
No, not at all. I mean, like, look, Ron Holland, like a guy who was committed to us, he's struggling like crazy in the G League. He's not shooting the ball well, like, unfortunately.
And now he's not a top 3 draft prospect on most people's board. He's fallen to like 7, 8. So
you look, nothing is guaranteed in sports. We know that all the time. I just really think like even Gavin Holmes, who hasn't been amazing for us this year. Sorry. Excuse me, guys. good things coming threes. Even Gavin Holmes, who hasn't been amazing for us this year out of Wake Forest from the transfer, like he's still been pretty strong and he's contributed. Ryan Watts, the guy we talked about, he's a massive piece for us.
Ohio
You
State.
know, Ohio State, yeah. Keelan Robinson, like we forget he's been with us a while, but he's a Bama transfer. Like it really matters, and we don't need Trey Moore, to be honest. Like we don't. We have Burke, we have Hill, we have Simmons coming in, we have Barron, Sorrell. We have 4 guys who are going to be on the roster that are good at getting the quarterback. But those 14 sacks will definitely come in handy, and he'll be great in the rotation, and he'll be in the spotlight if he comes to us. And who knows, like maybe he is our 80 Mitchell of the year, where we're like, all right, 80 Mitchell will be our third guy behind Whittington, behind, Worthy. And now we're sitting here like, okay, he's our best offensive player outside of Quinn, maybe better than Sanders. Like Trey Moore could be like, all right, like Hill and Burke and Sorrell and Simmons ahead of him, and he'll rotate in. He could be our best defensive player next year, and he could be a guy that a massive reason we're successful in the SEC and compete with like look, as good as Simmons is, and Hill is still young and Burke is big, but he's still young. Like this guy has serious experience, and we're going to a serious conference with a lot of professional offensive linemen, more so than we had in the Big 12. Like we really need a a pro college player in the mix, and I think Trey Moore is a big piece, and I think he knows what he can bring in that capacity. So I think that's the next guy up on our radar. We could do position groups next time because we've done our whole recruiting dance here. And Kobe Black, welcome to the 40 acres. We're pumped to have you. You're joining a great room. You're joining a great staff and a great program who has championships on their horizon. Hopefully in the next coming weeks, but if not then, hopefully in the 3 years that you're here with us in Austin, Texas. So welcome, and we'll see you guys mañana.